Will the Emperor of Hell, the most ruthless being who ever tried to destroy humanity completely, return in the greatest war of all? Is it really possible for Hades' soul to return in the Zeus saga? Hello, Knights and Amazons! Welcome to another video here on the Sempre Quis Saber channel. I'm Wes, and today we're going to analyze how figures like Hades, Poseidon, Apollo, Artemis, and even the gods Blacksmith, Hephaestus could enter the new Heavens saga of Knights of the Zodiac. Grab your popcorn, raise your Cosmo to infinity, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's dive into this awesome video. Number 1. The Emperor of the Underworld, Hades. Hades is not just the god of the underworld. He is one of the three great sons of Kronos and Rhea, brother of Zeus and Poseidon, and one of the most imposing and relentless antagonists in all of Masami Kurumada's work. Historically, Hades harbors a deep contempt for humanity. He sees human beings as sinful, violent creatures, unworthy of inheriting the beautiful earth that the gods created. For millennia, he tried to take control of the earth to turn it into an extension of his dark and icy realm, which gave rise to the legendary Holy Wars against Athena, which occur approximately every 243 years. The last great holy war against Hades, set at the end of the 20th century, was the most violent of all. Hades usually reincarnates in the body of the purest human on Earth. At that time, the chosen one was Shun of Andromeda, the younger brother of Icky, the Phoenix Saint. Shun, with his kind heart and aversion to violence, was the perfect vessel for the soul of the god of the underworld. However, thanks to the sacrifice of the knights and the brotherly love of Icky, and, of course, Athena's blood, Hades' soul was expelled from Shun's body. After that, the battle moved to the Elysian Fields, the utopian paradise reserved only for the gods and the humans chosen by them. It was there that the Bronze Knights, wearing their divine armors awakened by Athena's blood, faced the real body of Hades, who had been asleep since mythological times. Hades has an indescribable androgynous beauty, deep eyes, and a sword capable of cursing the soul of anyone who is wounded by it. Pegasus Saya was pierced in the chest by this sword while protecting Athena, falling into a vegetative state that serves as the trigger for the events of the Next Dimension saga. At the end of this bloody battle, Athena, together with Shiryu and Ogashun Ikki, combined their Cosmo and pierced Hades' chest with her golden staff, the representation of the goddess Nike. With his physical body destroyed and the great eclipse undone, the underworld and the Elysian Fields began to collapse, as they depended on Hades' existence to remain standing. Now you ask me, how could a being who was defeated so definitively and who hates humanity so much help Athena in the Heavens saga? This is where our theory takes on epic proportions worthy of a great story. Athena defied the laws of time and space in Next Dimension to save the lives of her people. Only a Hades king Athena. That act of extreme rebellion alone enraged Olympus. Zeus and the other gods do not tolerate a deity bowing so much before mere mortals, breaking universal rules. The punishment for Athena and for Earth will be complete annihilation. Hades, despite all his villainy, has a very strict code of honor and immeasurable divine pride. He hates Olympus as much as he hates defeat. In mythological times, after the Titanomachy, the three brothers divided the universe. Zeus took the skies, Poseidon took the seas, and Hades took the underworld. Hades has always felt wronged for being relegated to the dark depths, while Zeus shone at the top of Mount Olympus. He does not take orders from Zeus. If Olympus decides to intervene directly on Earth and in the domains that Hades considers his by right of conquest or ancient rivalry, the Emperor of the Underworld may very well prefer to forge an alliance of convenience. Hades, secretly with Athena, watching Zeus claim victory over the planet. Imagine the scene, the soul of Hades returning, perhaps in a new host or in a powerful spiritual form, not to fight against Athena, but to say that the only one who has the right to destroy humanity and rule the earth is himself, not the gods of Olympus. This temporary alliance would bring the army of the specters, or what is left of them, and the fearsome power of Hades' sword to the side of the defenders of Earth. It would be a worthy twist.
Dos maiores clássicos.
Number 2. The Emperor of the Seas, Poseidon. The second great divine ally who could lend a hand to Athena in this war against Olympus is none other than the Emperor of the Seas, Poseidon. Just like Hades, Poseidon has a vast history recorded in the legends of Saint Saga, which we need to recall to understand his motivations. Poseidon was the first great divine antagonist that the Bronze Saints faced after the epic battle of the 12 Houses of the Sanctuary. He reincarnated in the body of Julian Solo, the young heir of the world's greatest maritime trading power. Let's take a look at the details of this confrontation. Poseidon's goal was to purify the Earth through a colossal flood, inundating the entire planet to rebuild a new utopia under the waters, ruled by him. To stop this apocalyptic plan, the Bronze Saints had to invade Poseidon's underwater temple and bring down the 7 pillars that supported the seas of the world. Each one was protected by a great marine general. Warriors who wear the scales, armors as powerful as the sanctuary's gold cloths. We remember iconic battles like that of Sea Dragon Cannon, who was actually the mastermind behind Poseidon's premature awakening. Cannon deceived the god to start the war, seeking his own selfish ambition to dominate the world. However, the unwavering determination of Seiya, Shiryu, and Ikki, combined with the full awakening of Poseidon's Cosmo in Julian's body, led to a desperate final confrontation. Athena, using the sacred amphora, managed to seal Poseidon's soul once again, saving the world from the flood and freeing Julian Solo from his divine possession. But Poseidon's story didn't end there, and it's here that we see the first glimpses of his inclination to help Athena. During the Hades saga, when the Bronze Saints were cornered in the Elysian fields, facing the incredible power of the twin gods, Hypnos and Thanatos, something surprising happened. Poseidon's soul briefly awakened inside Julian Solo. On a humanitarian mission, helping the victims of floods on Earth, Poseidon realized that Hades' great eclipse threatened to destroy not only the Earth's surface, but also the balance of the entire planet, including its oceans. Driven by a desire to preserve the world and perhaps by a deep respect for the courage of those human warriors, Poseidon used his immense divine power to send 5 gold cloths across dimensions to the Elysian fields to help Seiya and his friends. Although the armors were destroyed soon after by Thanatos' devastating attack, this act proved that Poseidon is capable of cooperating with Athena when there is a greater threat at stake. In the upcoming Heaven saga, Olympus represents exactly that greater threat. Zeus and the Olympian gods want to punish the earth and erase humanity from existence due to the sins committed against the deities. Poseidon, who has always loved the earth in his own way, and who has already shown compassion and respect for humans,
Em momentos críticos, difícil.
will he accept the total destruction of the planet he himself once tried to rule? Besides the political rivalry in Olympus, Zeus rules with an iron fist, and Poseidon has always been a free spirit who challenged his younger brother's authority in various passages of mythology and the story itself. If Athena needs an ally with raw power equal to Zeus to stand up to Olympus's orders, Poseidon is the perfect candidate. He can mobilize the army of the depths and use his sacred trident to break through the celestial defenses. The Emperor of the Seas returning to action as a reluctant ally would be absolutely goosebump-inducing. Number 3, the goddess of the moon, Artemis. Now, moving on to deities who belong directly to the Olympian pantheon, active in the current timeline of the story, we need to talk about Artemis, the goddess of the moon and the hunt. Unlike Hades and Poseidon, who are Athena's uncles, Artemis is her older sister, and the relationship between the two is extremely complex and full of layers. To understand Artemis in the context of Saint Seiya, we need to look at the events of the Next Dimension manga, which continues the canonical story of the classic series. When Athena decides that she needs to go back in time to destroy the curse of Hades' sword, which is killing Seiya, she knows she can't do it alone. The first place she goes to seek help is precisely the Temple of the Moon, the domain of her sister Artemis. Artemis is portrayed as a goddess of severe beauty, with long hair and a piercing gaze that commands respect. She lives surrounded by her satellite warriors, formidable archers led by the aggressive and loyal commander Callisto. The environment of the Temple of the Moon is mysterious, bathed in a constant silvery light and filled with labyrinthine paths that confuse any mortal intruder. When Athena arrives asking for help to alter time, Artemis reacts with deep sadness and indignation. She loves her younger sister, but she cannot conceive how a great goddess like Athena could lower herself so much as to risk the order of the universe and her own life to save a mere human, a lowly bronze saint. To Artemis, humans are ephemeral and troublesome beings, unworthy of divine love and sacrifice. Artemis warns Athena that tampering with time will bring the unrestrained fury of Olympus and her father Zeus. She tries to dissuade Athena from her plan and even punishes her physically. However, upon seeing Athena's unwavering determination and the unconditional loyalty of knights like Shun of Andromeda, and later the others, Artemis is visibly shaken in her convictions. Despite her strict stance, Artemis does not hate Athena. On the contrary, she wants to protect her from the drastic consequences that will come from Mount Olympus. Artemis knows that if the full celestial army marches against Athena, her sister won't have the slightest chance of survival. It is in this duality that lies the great possibility of Artemis helping Athena in the Heaven Saga. She may not openly rebel against Zeus right away, since the respect and fear for the father of the gods are immense, but she can act from the shadows as a secret informant, or by sabotaging Olympus's attacks against Earth. Artemis might pretend that she is chasing Athena just to keep her off the radar of the more violent gods, or she could provide safe routes and legendary weapons to the Bronze Saints. The sisterly love that Artemis feels for Athena, even if disguised under a mask of severity and divine protocol, is one of the most human forces among the gods of Olympus. Seeing this goddess torn between her duty to her father and her love for her rebellious sister will bring a dramatic and spectacular weight to the narrative of the Heaven Saga. Number 4, Sun God Apollo. If Artemis represents the soft and mysterious light of the moon, her twin brother represents the absolute, scorching, and unquestionable power of the sun. We're talking about Apollo, the god of the sun, the arts, and prophecy. In the universe of Saint Seiya, Apollo is often portrayed as one of the most powerful and imposing deities in the entire Olympian pantheon, surpassed perhaps only by Zeus himself. The most striking image we have of Apollo in the franchise comes from the movie Heaven Chapter Overture, which, although it is not strictly canonical today due to the direction Kurumada took with Next Dimension, still serves as the main visual and personality reference for the character in the minds of fans. In that work, Apollo appears at the climax of the story as an unstoppable force of nature. His hair seems to be made of living flames, his eyes are as cold as the vacuum of space, and his presence makes even lesser gods bow their heads in fearful reverence. Apollo represents divine order in its purest and most inflexible state. He does not see humans with hatred like Hades, but rather with absolute indifference mixed with disdain. To him, humans are like ants trying to challenge the sun. When Seiya tries to strike a blow against Apollo at the end of the movie, the knight's punch only manages to scratch the god. It's the level of power that makes the battle against Hades look like light training. In the current Next Dimension canon, his appearance was impactful. He is the ultimate enforcer of Olympus's will. If Zeus decrees that humanity must be destroyed, Apollo will carry out the order without hesitation and with devastating efficiency. So how could a being so absurdly powerful and faithful to divine laws help Athena? The answer may lie in nature itself, the nature of the sun, and in the concept of absolute justice that Apollo embodies. Apollo is also the god of truth and prophecy. He sees beyond the present and understands the ramifications of fate like no one else. If during the unfolding of the Heaven Saga, it is proven that the survival of humanity is essential for the balance of the universe itself, or if there is an internal conspiracy in Olympus, orchestrated by corrupt gods to usurp Zeus's throne, something very common in classical Greek mythology, Apollo may change his stance. He wouldn't help Athena out of pity or love for humans, but rather to maintain perfect cosmic order. Apollo could recognize the unsurpassable value of the miracle that humans are capable of achieving through their cosmo and their pure feelings, something that the immortal and static gods have long forgotten or never possessed. Apollo's help would not come in the form of him fighting side by side with Seiya and the others, but rather as a divine concession. He could stop a devastating attack from Olympus, give an ultimatum to the other gods, or impose a fair judgment where humans have a real chance to prove their worth. Having the approval or benevolent neutrality of a colossus like Apollo would be the only thing preventing the instant annihilation of Athena's saints in the face of the full celestial wrath. Number 5, the blacksmith god Hephaestus. Finally, we come to the 5th god on our list of possible allies, a figure who has not yet had his grand official debut in the main Saint Seiya manga, but whose mythological presence and functionality within the universe of the story make him an absolutely perfect key piece for the Heaven Saga. Hephaestus, the god of fire and metallurgy, was Olympus's legendary blacksmith. Hephaestus is the son of Zeus and Hera, but his story is marked by rejection and by overcoming it through hard work and creative genius. In mythology, he was born so ugly and weak that his own mother threw him from the top of Mount Olympus into the ocean. He survived the fall but was left lame forever. However, Hephaestus developed an unparalleled skill for forging objects of unbelievable beauty and power in his volcanic workshops, becoming indispensable to the other gods who had so despised him. He forged Zeus's lightning bolts, Poseidon's trident, Apollo and Artemis's arrows, and the most magnificent armor in the myths. In the context of Saint Seiya, where armor is the central element of the warrior's power, the introduction of Hephaestus would be a monumental game-changer. As we know, Athena's saints' armors were created in mythological times by the people of the continent of Mu, the ancestors of Mu of Ares and Kiki, using mystical materials like gammonian, orichalcum, and stardust. However, faced with the overwhelming power of the Kamui, the original divine armors of the gods of Olympus, even the bronze armors bathed in Athena's blood may not be enough to guarantee victory in a prolonged war in the heavens. This is where Hephaestus comes in. As the supreme blacksmith of the universe, he possesses the knowledge and skill to forge or improve protective gear that can directly rival the power of the Olympian gods. But why would he help Athena and the human knights against his own family in Olympus? There are several fascinating psychological and mythological reasons for this. First, Hephaestus has always been an outsider in Olympus. He knows intimately the hypocrisy, excessive vanity, and cruelty of the other gods, who have always treated him as inferior because of his physical appearance and manual labor, even though they depend on his creations. He harbors a deep, silent resentment against the tyranny of Zeus and the whims of gods like Ares and Aphrodite, who betrayed him with the god of war. Hephaestus might see in Athena's knights a reflection of himself, beings who are considered inferior and weak by the proud gods of Olympus. But through Herculean effort, unbreakable willpower, and burning emotions like the fire of his forges, they manage to accomplish miracles that frighten the gods. This mutual identification might lead Hephaestus to secretly sympathize with Athena's cause. Imagine the knights needing to invade the depths of a sacred volcano to find Hephaestus's workshop. There, instead of a relentless enemy, they find a god tired of Olympian arrogance. Hephaestus could agree to forge new legendary armors for the knights or repair their damaged divine armors, imbuing them with the sacred fire of Olympus so they can harm the higher gods. This alliance would bring a spectacular dynamic to the story, where the quest for the ultimate equipment becomes a journey of survival and spiritual transcendence. Hephaestus provides the sacred fire for the human rebellion against divine oppression, which would be poetic and perfectly aligned with the classic spirit of Saint Seiya. Summing up our epic journey today, the Heaven Saga, or Ten Chiron, promises to be the biggest event in the history of Saint Seiya. The confrontation against Olympus won't be an ordinary battle that Athena's knights can win just by raising their cosmo to the 7th or 8th sense individually. They will need powerful allies in the divine world to balance the cosmic forces and create openings in the impenetrable defense of the celestial gods. There's a possibility of gods who were once enemies or neutral, like Hades with his dark army, Poseidon with the overwhelming power of the seas, and Artemis with her fraternal love, Apollo with his strict sense of cosmic order, and Hephaestus with his genius in mythical forges. Joining forces directly or indirectly with Athena opens up an infinite range of spectacular storylines. It shows that the universe created by Masami Kurumada is not made up of just black and white, of good against absolute evil, but rather of gods with complex personalities, political rivalries, and deep emotional bonds that can be brilliantly explored. And you, what did you think of this theory? Share your thoughts so I know what you think. And of course, thank you for watching this video until the end, and see you next time. Burn your Cosmo to infinity.